Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the next video. So this time I'm taking a look at the strange Rugrats spinoff that kind of worked, and it's uploaded by Jordan Fringe. So yeah, surprise, surprise, I do happen to be a fan of Rugrats, as well as the all grown up spinoff. I did not grow up with them personally as a kid. I got into both shows very later on in life. But at least with Rugrats, I knew that it existed prior to getting into the show, and I like them both equally. Even with all grown ups, flaws and continuity errors here and there, I still think it's a very underrated show and a worthy successor to Rugrats. So, without preambling that further on and whatnot, so let's begin.
What you need is a gimmick.
Hey,
like weight machines. Oh, the Glutinator 8000. Been using it 3 times a week. Go ahead, pop a cup of Joe on top of that puppy. It won't spill a drop. Thanks.
Boy.
Okay, what if I told you Klasky Supo made the same show twice and ran
I pronounce it Klasky Chupo, by the way.
both of them on the air at the same time on Nickelodeon?
Someone once told me the grass is much greener.
Honestly, I don't get the comparison between AGU and As Told by Ginger. Yeah, both shows have their similarities. I've seen people call AGU a watered down version of Ginger, but at the same time, I think the two are unfairly compared.
On the other side,
They just didn't tell me the other side was basically the same side. So
Yeah, but both shows had great theme songs, by the way.
I'm talking about the Rugrats spin-off series All Grown Up. It was Nickelodeon's answer to, hey, how do we keep the Rugrats growing, as season 9 of the Rugrats was literally being stretched out for years and given some random TV specials in later years.
Yeah, and the later seasons were not very good. And by the time they got season 7 going, they had switched the art style from cells to digital ink and paint, and I really don't like how it looks. I just think it makes the show look more bland, ugly, and soulless. Soulless, that is. I could barely get that word out for a second.
It was just something I can never really shake off about the spinoff. It literally was a mirror to the same format as Klasky Supo's other already running show, As Told by Ginger. But I'll get into that in just a few moments here. First, my good buddy Nerdstalgic has a few things he would like to tell you about how the series initially came to be.
Backdoor pilot.
All Grown Up is something that when I started Nostalgic, I was certain I would talk about, and well, that never really happened. And the thing I wanted to come here to talk about today is not necessarily the show. I'll let Jordan do that. I wanted to talk about how this show got started. So when the 10th anniversary of the Rugrats rolled around, this was a show that lasted longer than any other Nickelodeon show at that time. They wanted to do something big. They wanted to blow it out, basically. And the way to do this was a 10th anniversary special. And the 10th anniversary special was kind of weird. The kids start as they always are, toddlers running around as Rugrats, and they enter a closet. And once they get into this closet, well, they leave it as preteens. I don't really remember quite how old they were supposed to be, but they were all grown up. And this was a double episode, an hour-long feature that saw the babies as adults, rethought them almost like a fan fiction, but they were the same people. They were these characters evolved, and we saw them go through this for an hour. It felt almost like a resolution to the show, a finale, if you will, to the Rugrats, before eventually realizing that this was basically a dream and that they were still babies after all. But the episode itself was incredible. It was so good. It was so well-paced. It was so well-curated and crafted that it received almost unanimous praise from fans and people watching the network.
I mean, I wouldn't call the episode great, but I still would call it well made. And by the time I first saw the episode, I was excited to see the characters aged up. And I did really want to see more of them all grown up. So when I also learned that the spinoff existed, I was very, very excited, and I could not wait to see it. But I chose to watch the entirety of not All Grown Up. I watched the entirety of Rugrats first, including the various specials and the movies for preparation before making the jump to AGU. Maybe it wasn't entirely necessary, but I felt like I just had to. And by the time I finished All Grown Up, I'm mostly satisfied with it, even with the flaws, as I stated earlier. Continue.
And so Nickelodeon didn't really have a choice but to create a spinoff. This was what's called a backdoor pilot. A backdoor pilot is an episode of a sitcom or show that's still an episode of that sitcom or show. It fits nicely in with the rest of the series as, say, season 4, episode 7, but it's also a test for a spinoff, a pilot for a spinoff, to see if this show resonates with fans and if it deserves its own series.
And if I recall correctly, the premiere of All Grown Up got over 12 million viewers, which is insane. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, if I was off on that fact. But yeah, the viewership for that episode when it first premiered was insane. So it was kind of just bound to happen.
In this case, it got it. And Jordan, well, I'll let you talk about what happened next.
Right, so the backdoor pilot sparked interest with fans. Usually in cartoons, we don't see many characters ever age unless it's in a significant event, a movie, or an actual reason to do so. This was a unique way to give fans a peek into what could be, and people wanted it. We wanted to see an older Tommy Pickles, an older Chucky Finster, a Phil and Lil, Kimmy, Dill, Susie, Angelica, you name them. Let's see how their lives progress. So after the success of the 10th anniversary special in 2001, 2 years later, we finally see the results of said success with the new series All Grown Up. And you can tell they really did grow up because the original backdoor pilot was called All Grown Up, and now it's All Grown Up, and yeah, with an exclamation mark.
Also, probably one of the best Nickelodeon theme song intros of all time. At least the top 5.
Great.
That is a verifiable fact. So the show aged up the characters roughly 10 years, putting them into the age group of 9 to 12-year-olds, and even Angelica had her own special episode where she turns 13.
Angelica, what's it like being a teenager?
It's just like being in a movie
cringe.
starring me.
Angelica! But going back to my point about this being a very similar show to As Told by Ginger, this show dealt with a lot of the same stories, these slice-of-life issues that kids these ages would deal with for the most part, rather than the fantastical adventurism of Rugrats proper, which is completely fine and honestly refreshing to see because it adds to the show's title. They were growing up. They weren't babies and little kids anymore. They were going through their adolescence, discovering who they were, what they want to be, dealing with more emotions and just all-around everyday issues. And As Told by Ginger basically did the same thing, just with more of a middle school focus, some more serious topics, a more serious tone overall.
Yeah, personally, I do think As Told by Ginger handled the more mature topics way better. Unfortunately, with All Grown Up, for whatever reason, the characters had to be preteens because my demographics are some nonsense with Nickelodeon. Which I think the show would have worked so much better if the characters were at least early high schooler age, with the kind of stories and issues they were tackling. Not to mention, they were acting way older than they were supposed to, given that the characters were only 10 to 13, yet they acted so much older, which I'm not the only person who's complained about that, by the way. Excuse me, my throat's kind of killing me today. But yeah, I think the show could have been better if the characters were just a little older. So let's begin.
Compared to All Grown Up, which we'll have to cover that show at another time. Now, I don't fully want to say that the original wonderment of the Rugrats, the adventures, the whole
Baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do.
isn't still there and prominent within the show. In fact, there are still plenty of episodes that still lend to that feeling, but more of the adventures you'd see a 10-year-old come up with, and it really works well with lending themselves to the life lessons being taught sometimes. The characters themselves translated well from the characteristics from the Rugrats to All Grown Up. Tommy and Dill still have their differences and even clash a lot in the series, but still have that brotherly love for each other. And Chucky has this big brother overprotective complex towards Kimmy regarding her wanting to find her own voice and over the guys she's interested in.
FYI, I'm I'm helping him with the project tonight.
You can't!
Okay, Kimmy. There was something I really gotta tell
Drop
you.
it! This discussion is finito.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
One of my least favorite episodes, to be honest with you.
Phil and Lil specifically have to deal with not being the same type of person anymore, understanding that while they are twins, that they can have their own identities but still care about each other at the end of the day.
Right.
Angelica and Susie are dead set on figuring out their future careers and passions, with Susie wanting to get into the music industry and Angelica still kind of figuring things out. She's a great blogger, she still sings, there's a lot of stuff that she wants to explore. Both being smart and talented in their own rights in the show, working towards what they want to do, which is obviously a great message to portray. And they never shied away from showing the problems and obstacles from this. In fact, in one episode, Susie completely gets duped into thinking that she was going to have a chance at becoming a star, but in the end was tricked and left with nothing to show for it, which this was a very real and raw thing to show, especially for showing this as a preteen dealing with these issues in real world circumstances.
Yeah, the episode was pretty dark. Probably the darkest within the Rugrats universe. If it's not, then it's definitely up there with some of the darkest Rugrats episodes in general. But yeah, a halfway pretty good episode, if you ask me.
I should have gone with you. I should have checked this woman out.
I promise I'll pay you back all the money.
The money? Susie, worse things could have happened to you than just losing $1,000, okay? You hang out with someone you don't even know. Say yes to whatever she asks you to do. She could have taken it a lot further than she did.
Think about it!
Yeah, and you got no idea what that lady could have done. What she could have actually done to you. I won't say any of what could have possibly happened, but I know worse could have happened in that scenario. Like, you're lucky you even made it out alive.
Another major element of the Rugrats transfers over to All Grown Up as well, and that is the parents.
What do you think?
The Rugrats itself spent a lot of time always showing the parents dealing with being new parents, or how to be a good parent, how a single parent has to deal with raising a kid, or how a super busy working mom has to deal with her high-level business career and being there for her daughter.
Practicing for school? Good girl. That's the kind of initiative that'll take you straight to the top. Charlotte here.
All that and more is shown here in All Grown Up, as the parents have to raise their kids as they are on the cusp of being teenagers. On top of that, dealing with their own issues and jobs, like Chaz Finster owning and operating the Java Lava, and all of the financial stress that comes with that.
Well, I crunched and recrunched the numbers, Betty, and technically speaking, unless we bring in more customers, we're toast.
I was actually really impressed by the themes this show was tackling while still somewhat maintaining what made the Rugrats the Rugrats.
No, this is all my fault. If I had given birth to her a day later, none of this would have happened.
Oh, that's good. Unfortunately, I do think the adults, the grown-ups, and the parents especially were underutilized throughout the show. They don't serve the increased supportive role that they should have. And it's a shame, because most of the stuff we do get, I really enjoyed seeing. And unfortunately, we don't get much with the Pickles family, both sides of it. So, yeah, honestly, I think more could have been done with the parents, especially Howard. He was so underutilized. And don't forget Drew, especially. Him and Howard, they did not do very much with. And that will always bother me.
All Grown Up lasted for 5 seasons, and it is a testament to how making a spin-off can be done right. In fact, the Rugrats had many different plans for spin-offs of what they wanted to try.
I mean, five seasons with 50-plus episodes, that is a good and solid run. Even though I do wish the show had lasted a little longer than it did.
Even ones that had full attempts and unfortunately were not well received, like the Rugrats preschool days.
Yeah, honestly, the preschool days episode I did not like. Generally, just unenjoyable for me personally. I didn't care about any of the new characters were introduced, including the teacher. Harold was a nothing, an annoying character. So yeah, I really didn't care about this special when I first saw it. But thank God Harold is a much better and more tolerable character in All Grown Up, much like with Dill.
Which was based off of another backdoor pilot from season 8 with the same name. That miniseries followed Angelica and Susie, going to preschool, and it lasted 4 episodes.
And unfortunately, Preschool Days, the spinoff that only had 4 episodes, that one never even stood a chance with all the hype and attention AGU got. So, shame that one never worked out.
All these years later, I find myself wanting to actually see the Rugrats all grown up. And no, I'm not talking about the episode where they pretend that they're adults working as businessmen. I mean like a college-age bunch of Rugrats now dealing with issues pertaining to their age. It just seems interesting to me since we saw them as babies, watched them navigate the preteen landscape, so naturally I would like to see what could be next for their adventures.
I mean, yeah, personally, I would have loved to have seen them either during their college years or as adults with kids of their own, if a second spinoff were to have been made after All Grown Up. But unfortunately, that just never happened, and we got a CGI reboot. While I haven't seen it yet, I've heard that pretty much people near universally despise it. But I'm still willing to give it a fair shot in the future regardless. So yeah, I think they should have made a second spinoff to continue off of All Grown Up, if you ask me.
Maybe even seeing them a bit older, having their own families now with their own babies, and those babies having their own adventures that they once had. These are all just fun ideas that could be explored. But as of now, there is a planned revival for the Rugrats tentatively scheduled to premiere later this year in the fall. We know pretty little about it or what it's truly going to be about, but I only hope they can maintain one thing in it.
Word did go around that there was going to be a live-action movie to be released at some point, but that got shelved or something, which I don't imagine that being any good. A live-action Rugrats movie sounds absolutely horrible.
And that is the spirit of adventure.
The spirit of adventure and growing up.
You're a friend to me. I'm a friend to you.
Oh, this part was so emotional.
When we have each other, this.
And it broke.
But I am very curious as to your thoughts on All Grown Up and I guess the Rugrats in general. Did you enjoy All Grown Up, or was it nothing new because we had a similar show already running on Nickelodeon at the same time? I feel like every time I speak about All Grown Up with people, I get many differing opinions on the show.
I mean, I've seen that All Grown Up is rather divisive amongst fans. And while I do very much appreciate it and mostly enjoy what it does, I can understand some of the hate it gets. But personally, I do think it's an overhated show. It deserved better. It should have lasted a little longer. And I do also consider it to be a worthy successor to Rugrats, even with its flaws and continuity errors. I find it to be just a very chill and fun show to watch, about the characters and their middle school ages and whatnot, going on with the usual middle school shenanigans and whatnot. Like, for example, the double-length episodes, 3 of them that we got and whatnot, were some of my favorite episodes. Like, I could probably go on and on about how much I actually do like this show, and how much it disappoints me at the same time that there was so much more potential to it. But I'm glad that we even got All Grown Up to begin with. And I'm curious as to what the Rugrats reboot has to offer when I make time for it. So, yeah, let's continue this if there's anything else.
Joe, so I'd love to know how you feel about it, and let's hope that the new Rugrats reboot is at least decent, but that is going to be it for me today.
Yeah, I do hope it's at least somewhat decent when I watch it. But yeah, I think it's going to do it for the reaction, everybody. Let me know what you think down below. What do you think of All Grown Up? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you think it could have been much better executed? I personally do, but I would love to hear what you think of it down below. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time.